today, August the 19th. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you all for attending, the board members. And let's go ahead and introduce ourselves, starting with David.
David Arons, public member.
I'm Sterling Phillips.
Miguel Mojica, professional member.
Catherine Mize, professional.
Kevin Matthews, professional.
Randy Duncan, professional.
Thank you very much for being here once again. Let's go ahead and move on to item number C, approval of the minutes. Hopefully everybody's kind of reviewed those. Do we have a motion?
I motion we approve the minutes of the meeting of May 19th.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? So moved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a formality, you kind of had an unofficial roll call. Everyone introduced themselves, but you might just certify that there's a quorum, so.
Okay. So go back again and do the roll call, or just mention the fact that we have a quorum?
That'd be good enough, I
Okay.
think, yes.
So we have a quorum today, so we can conduct business. Thank you once again for everyone being here. These two items have been signed. Next item on the agenda is going to be public comment. Did anyone submit a request for public comment? No? Okay. So we'll move on to item number E for the staff reports. And the first one's going to be the executive officer.
Yes, sir. Good morning, all. My name's George Ferry. I'm Director of the Compliance Division. I'll be sitting in for Executive Office today. They're busily preparing for a legislative hearing next week of the House Licensing and Administrative Procedures Committee. So they asked if I would sit in and make the report for them today. Item number one, the update and discussion regarding transition. So I guess the number one question is when? And that will be October 3rd, Monday, October 3rd. TDLR will officially take over all the functions of the programs. Licensing, enforcement, customer service, all that good stuff. We're already obviously in the process of looking at a lot of that stuff. In fact, Dee Dee will, our Director of Licensing, will let you know about her staff going over to help and to learn with the licensing aspects. But, and I guess I forgot to mention one thing. Our Executive Director and Deputy Director did want to apologize for not being able to make it today, so I want to be sure and put that out there for you all to know. They did plan on being at this one. So consolidation. We've established a consolidation team here at TDLR made up of people from all the different divisions. They're meeting once a week and discussing all the items they can think of, trying to address any issues so that come October 3rd we'll have a seamless change. The only thing you'll see is a difference in the caller ID or whatever when you call in, or when you get your license it'll say TDLR instead of DSHS. We're looking to just be, flip the switch, have a seamless transition come October 3rd when the change takes place. As part of that, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen recently, there was a posting, a rule posting that we sent out an email on. It's not one we brought to this board because it actually applies to all the boards, and it has to do with the changes that were made to our Chapter 51, which is the law that applies to the whole agency and basically how we operate and our commission and executive director and all that good stuff. But Senate Bill 202, the bill that transferred the 13 programs from DSHS, including this one, added that information to our Chapter 51, and basically it has to do with how we handle rule changes, specifically rule changes pertaining to standards of care. In a nutshell, the language says that if this committee or any of the other health-related professions committees propose a change related to standards of care and the commission does not want to adopt them verbatim, they have to send them back to the advisory board for review and then sending back to the commission. So that's a special provision that applies to the health programs. And right now that proposal is out there for public comment. as members of the public, you certainly can comment and provide any comment to us on those rules. Let us know if there's anything, any concerns you have or whatever. And if you look at the email, it will give you the email to respond or send your comments to regarding that rule proposal. So if you haven't, everyone here get that email? You're all signed up for the email notifications and everything? Good, okay. Also wanted to mention a little event we went to, we being myself and Mary, Texas chapter of the American Academy of Orthotists and Prosthetists. So we were asked to come down and speak briefly to the group about the consolidation, about how things are going, and appreciate the opportunity to come down and talk to the folks there. We got a couple questions, but everyone in the room seemed to be pretty knowledgeable about. Certainly, I asked was everyone aware this was happening, the change, and everyone's put their hand up, so at least everyone knows about it. It shouldn't be a shock when they send their license to, or send their application to DSHS and it comes back undeliverable or something like that. And anyway, appreciate the opportunity to do that. I was hoping to get down there early myself to view the exhibits, but it was raining that day. My drive ended up being a little bit longer. It doesn't help if people were running off the road and crashing into things on the road I was on. So, nevertheless, we made it down there in time for our presentation, and Ms. Winston and I were able to talk for about 30, 45 minutes to the group there. Moving on down the agenda, I want to talk to you a little bit about our strategic plan and about our legislative appropriations requests. So, every 2 years, every state agency is required to produce a strategic plan covering the next 5 years, basically. So this one covers 2017 to 2021. We're mandated certain things we have to include, but we kind of go above and beyond. I don't know if any of y'all attended the sessions we had, but we have sessions around the state as part of our strategic planning, and we ask 4 basic questions. What are we doing well? What can we do better? If you could be king or queen for a day, what one item in law or rule would you change? And then what's coming down the pike in the next 5 years? And by that we mean not only technology, but what's going to change in your profession that might impact the way you do business or just impact the products that are actually produced. So we then come back, we identify strategic items that we want to address perhaps in the next legislative session. But we do produce the document, the strategic plan. It's an easy read. It's not very long. In fact, we were told to keep it to 20 pages, and I think we came in at 19. So, hey, we know how to follow directions, right? It is posted on our webpage under reports. I don't believe, to move on to the next item, our legislative appropriations request is posted yet. Last time I changed, but it is completed. The legislative appropriations request is our budget request for the next two fiscal years 18 and 19. It is, as my boss has put it a couple times, a professional groveling document. So it's the budget that we're asking to operate the agency. Now this time we were asked to, all agencies were asked to prepare a budget that was 4% less than last year's. So that was a challenge, but a challenge that we've risen to. We do have, if you look, there are also some exceptional items, which are items above and beyond the base budget that we're asking for, and those are in that document too. Just want to mention one other thing that I think you've all heard, but something of concern or interest to us, personnel change. Our current executive director, Mr. Bill Coons, will be retiring at the end of this month. Bill and Brian, as our leadership team, have really brought this agency a long ways from when they started in 1999. Things were kind of rocky when they came on board. Legislature wasn't totally happy with us, but now they're looking to us as the solution for programs that licensing programs, occupational licensing programs. That's our specialty. That's what we excel in. What we're experts at is occupational licensing. So they look to us as a solution for any programs that it might be a better fit here than where they were, or new programs to come along, that sort of thing. So all that is because of the hard work that Bill and Brian have done over the years, really building a good reputation for this agency, being smart in how to operate things. and being responsive to to our customers, to the licensees, trying to provide the services that people really need. So we're sad to see Bill going, but I'm sure he'll keep himself plenty busy. And I imagine we'll be seeing him from time to time as we go on, particularly during the session. I'm sure he can't stay away. He'll be interested in what's going on. So anyway, I think that completes the executive report, unless y'all have any questions.
The 19-page report that you all produced?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that include all of your programs?
It addresses the whole agency, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't go through program by program,
Oh, it doesn't, okay.
but it addresses generally, there's certain things that we were told we had to have in the report. Now, as far as each program, there's a list at the end of the document of impediments and redundancies. Thank you. I was struggling to remember that. And that kind of goes program by program, things that we think maybe need to be changed in the law or whatever the case may be. But the document is kind of a general nature. I would encourage y'all to read, if you don't read anything else, read the first page that includes our mission, our vision, the agency's philosophy, and our core values. These are the base things that apply to everything we do and the way we approach what we do. So core values are that. They are core. And please take a peek at those. And you'll understand better how we operate here and how we think. So,
If you all as an agency are looking to make any legislative changes that would affect our profession specifically, would we know that before the bill is filed or as it's being written, or?
generally, we're gonna probably talk to the individuals affected by those changes. So yeah, it's not gonna be a surprise. And I think during the session, if I recall correctly, we actually put bills that are introduced, not, by other people, whatever. We put those bills on our website so people can kind of get an idea of what's been introduced that might relate to their profession. So we're trying to keep you all informed of what's going on in the legislative session, so you know.
Mary Winston and Ms. Mize, as you know, we don't present legislation, but legislation is brought to us by different stakeholders and association members or what have you. And we will keep the industry apprised of that. Put it on the website. You have time to comment and express your feelings, because that legislation won't come from us.
Okay.
It comes from outside.
But we don't want you to be surprised.
No.
Some surprises are good, those kind aren't necessarily, so.
And we do want your input, definitely.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Thank you.
Item number 2 is general counsel.
The only real update, I think, is for the, pardon? Oh, Laura Pepperly, General Counsel.
Strict. So.
The rules for the program have been adopted. They were published on June 17th, and of course they become effective at the beginning of October when the programs are going to start operating. But the rules are adopted in the form that you'll see them then, and they're on the website along with the rules that George was talking about, the Chapter 100 rules on how the advisory boards will propose rules to the commission. And also on there are the criminal conviction guidelines, so anything you need to see about O&P, you can find that on the website. It's all on there now. And that's really all the update I have for GC, if you have any questions.
All right. Move on to item number 3, which is compliance division.
That would be me again.
All right.
At least I'm going to start the report here.
All right.
I'm going to start the report by introducing the gentleman that's coming up to the table here. So y'all may recall, hearken back to those days of yesteryear when we first, sorry, I'm showing my age. We created a new, in many of the divisions, we've created new sections to address these programs, kind of specialize. And in the compliance division, we created a health professions section. I've got 2 other sections in the compliance division that address all the other programs. This new section For this new section, I hired a manager, and is the gentleman sitting here at the table, Mr. Stephen Mills. You may know Stephen. He comes to us from the Department of State Health Services with 20-plus years of experience in occupational licensing programs. We are in the process of hiring staff, and I don't want to make his whole report so he has nothing to say, but anyway, we're really happy to have Stephen on board, and it reminds me, I guess I didn't mention the consolidation team, which he will talk on, but, no, I did, okay. Stephen's gonna give you more detail on what the consolidation team is doing here at TDLR, trying to make sure that we have everything covered, if we can get everything covered, but I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, George. As George mentioned, my name is Stephen Mills. I am the Health Professions Section Manager here at TDLR. I have been here since June 15th. And in that amount of time, I've been working on two major projects, hiring and the Health Professions Consolidation Team. We first interviewed for two Health Professions Program Specialist positions, our leads, and those positions were offered this week, one of which has gone to Yvonne Feinleib, who is here today. I think y'all know Yvonne. Yvonne has a long history with DSHS, with both the midwifery program and the Orthotists and Prosthetists programs, as well as a number of other programs within that unit.
Was it something he said?
We'll take a moment.
That's funny.
You said something wrong.
Obviously.
Thought maybe it was an indictment of your,
Terry came in and took the microphone away from you, oh no.
Terry, don't do that to Stephen, he's new.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry. Is that better?
Thank you, Terry.
Yes.
So we're thrilled to have Yvonne Feinleib on board. And I definitely look forward to working with her as we transition these new programs to TDLR. There are 3 other positions that I am working on filling. They recently closed. Interviewing process will start soon. One of them will serve as an assistant program specialist to work with Yvonne with her assigned programs. So you'll be getting to know that person also in the future. And those positions, while Yvonne begins on September 1st, those positions begin on October 1st. So the other project has been our TDLR Health Professions Consolidation Team, which has been up and running for about a month now. The team is made up, we've got about 14 members from across all of our functional divisions here at TDLR, most of whom are on your agenda to provide a report today. Our team is having weekly meetings. They're very productive and informative. We're exchanging implementation information about what's going on in each functional area to ensure that we're on target and to identify and address gaps. Our goal is to make sure that we are up and running effectively and efficiently on October 3rd, and that licenses are being processed and going out the door, telephones are being answered, initial intake of complaints is occurring, all those things that have to happen on day one. We have a communications group that has been refining new web content, and that same information will go into email updates, which are planned in the near future. We every week receive, as I mentioned, a functional update from each of our areas, and it's pretty comprehensive. It includes IT. We have a new system coming. It's the system that was in use at DSHS. It's new to TDLR. We get an update from our licensing area, our enforcement division, our field operations division, our education and examinations division, general counsel, the web and social media folks, strategic communications, and financial services. So we're working really hard to integrate all of these pieces and ensure that the lines of communication are open for a successful transition. And that's been actually going quite well. I think that we're on schedule, and I expect a successful transition on the 3rd of October. That concludes my first report to this advisory board. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is going to be number 4, Education and Examination Division.
And Mr. Chairman, I think I'll be making, highlighting the report that Education Examination provided for y'all, the written report.
No.
I think the thing most significant, we've mentioned a lot of this stuff, obviously the start date is October 3rd. Excuse me. And I just realized I'm at fault here. George Ferry, Director of Compliance. So the big thing I think I'll mention is their personnel updates. So the Education and Examination Division is hiring staff, a lot of it from the Department of State Health Services, which is causing a challenge for them. But 2 people, Roy Cantu and Fernando Gaitan, have been hired recently, started October 1st, and they are education inspectors. They would inspect schools, that sort of thing. You got the information there, but Roy has worked a number of years in a school environment. He is bilingual and has an instructor's license in cosmetology. And Fernando holds a barber and cosmetology instructor license and has also worked a number of years in that environment. So that's pretty much the report for education and examination, unless y'all have any questions.
When it comes to, this is Miguel Mojica, when it comes to continuing education, would this be the group that will be dealing with continuing ed?
Yes.
Okay.
They will be. Now, as we've told everyone, for the most part, nothing's going to change. You know, we have a process of approving providers, and they have to apply for a license, and then we approve courses. But we're going to go with the systems and the procedures that the DSHS and the programs have been using for some time. Not that there won't be some evaluation of that, but we know that we're going to make some changes in the way we do things as these programs come over. So we're not going to necessarily try and force a round peg into a square hole.
Okay. Because, yeah, we have 2 organizations, the ABC and
Right.
the BOC, that are approving courses for us, and especially since under this transition, we want to make sure that doesn't get thrown off.
No, it will
So
not. That will
whatever.
continue.
So at this particular point, whatever they're approving and the amount of CEUs will still be counted.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that will continue.
Okay.
Any change to that would have to be obviously discussed with this board and the public in general. So I don't foresee anything. Mr. Ray Pizarro is the director of the E&E division, and I've heard him say repeatedly, we're not going to make any changes right now. We're just going to evaluate things. And if the process you have looks good, then we're not going to change anything. So.
When it comes to the price or the cost of the continuing, I guess that's part of it that I'm trying to figure out. I know you mentioned something about these individuals are going to have to register. At this particular point, they're not going to have to register?
No.
Okay.
I don't think, we're not going
But
to change,
that's
like I said,
something
we're not
under
going to
discussion
change
later.
anything basically
Okay.
from the way things are happening right now.
Okay.
And any changes that would happen would have to be a change in rule, and would have to come before this board, and would have to be approved by the commission, and there have to be public comment and the whole deal. So right now, standard operating procedure, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Good questions. Thanks.
Other questions? Move on to number 5, the Enforcement Division.
Good morning, Chairman Mojica, board members.
Good morning.
My name's Virginia Fields. I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division. I will be presenting the enforcement staff reports at your future advisory board meetings. The report that you have is duplicitous. You've seen this before in prior meetings. It has 2 parts, essentially. The first part is divided into 3 sections. The first section basically details how a case runs through the Enforcement Division, comes into our intake department, files are prepared and the initial client or parties contacted. Then it goes to investigation and then prosecution. The second section describes the types of complaints that we receive. There are consumer complaints, department-generated complaints through inspections or sting operations, and criminal histories, which generate through applications, those cases. The third section is the protocol by which our division operates. It's comprised of the complaint resolution manual, the enforcement plan, which is also referred to as the penalty matrix, and the criminal guidelines. In the vein of the criminal guidelines, they've been meticulously employed. At your meeting May 19th, you approved those criminal conviction guidelines. The commission met, approved, and adopted those on June 22nd, and on July 29th, they were posted to our website. And the second part of our staff report is the TDLR key statistics for 2015. These are generally reported numbers. The only thing I would draw your attention to is that in 2015, the Enforcement Division closed over 2,000 more cases than we opened. I think that that's a great reassurance from my own personal experience that your program, the cases will get the immediate attention they require. This concludes my portion of the staff report. I'm really excited to work with you, look forward to it. I thank you for serving on the board, and thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is going to be number 6, Field Operations Division.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I am Tanya Guthrow, the Director of Field Operations. And we, of course, haven't started any inspections yet. One of the things I thought I would update you on is that we are learning the new database that's coming over. We're trying to get that set up so there's a place for us to enter the information once we do start collecting it. Also, I think a highlight here is a very tentative inspection timeline. Just as everyone has mentioned, October 3rd is the deadline, and what that means is they're going to start issuing licenses and renewals and getting all of that working exactly right. And maybe in the next 6 to 8 months, we'll be working with you all and getting our inspectors up to speed. So what we'll do is initially draft an inspection guide, and then we're going to meet with the advisory board work group to go over that and make sure we're on the same page, and you guys will be able to have input on what we're developing. Then we're going to do the training of the inspectors, and we're going to start out with classroom training. We've got folks who have reached out to us to help us with that. We're going to get training on HIPAA requirements. And then we'll take our folks out in the field and we'll start that process. One thing to keep in mind is even when we start the inspections, they're not going to be writing violations that are going to go to enforcement. This is going to be where we might note some kind of problem and educate the folks on how to create it. And eventually when enforcement has their penalty guidelines that you guys are going to give input on developed, in the future, we will be writing, violations and citing things that will go to enforcement for administrative penalties. So I just wanted to give you a sense of what the timing is going to look like. And the next item I have is we've had some promotions in our divisions. We've hired Adriana Gonzalez to be a facilitator with us. We've hired a new North Region Manager, Joe Carrasco. And we've listed here that we were reviewing applications for additional inspectors, but since I wrote this report, we've hired Pam Folsom and Michael Bador, who are going to be inspectors in our DFW area. And that completes my report. Do you guys have any questions?
Tanya, I have.
Yes, sir.
Sterling Phillips, I know you brought your staff into my office.
I sure
Have they
did.
had a chance to look at other offices and kind of get an idea of what to compare?
Yes, well, we've been to a couple of different facilities. In addition, we've been out with ABC, and they walked us through their process, their very detailed process. It was, incredibly enlightening. It might be more than what we would have the authority to pursue or to look at, but it was very helpful. So they also provided us with some documentation to sort of get us started regarding the inspection guide.
Oh, thanks, Tanya. That makes me feel better.
Oh, good.
I have a quick question, Catherine Mize. Based on this timeline that you've laid out,
Yeah.
it may well be a year from October 3rd before you're actually writing violations?
It could be, which is not
Give or
unusual.
take?
Yeah, with programs that have been onboarded previously, that is not unusual. Now, mind you, if we were out and we saw something, really grievous, then we would have to get in touch with the appropriate, folks, either in enforcement or depends on what the situation is. So, okay.
Miguel Mojica.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to those guidelines, I know you talked about developing those, getting with the, with the advisor.
The work group.
Work group.
Mhm.
Once those guidelines are set, will those be posted? And make it available for the, for the
Sure. Yeah, we
P&O
absolutely can post the inspection
companies and
guidelines.
stuff that are?
One of the things that we have found is that it might be better to do something called what to inspect during an inspection.
Okay.
Only because sometimes there are little things that are updated as we go through. At some point, if we become really confident in, okay, we've really developed this, we're settled for a while with it, it might be better to post it. But we have found that, especially initially, we do find like, oh, well, we need to make a correction or change this around or rearrange things, and then posting it on and off the web, people get outdated versions of it. But I would suggest doing something like what to expect during an inspection and letting people, understand how it's going to work and just be aware, especially for a program that hasn't had inspections before. Not to keep the information from them, but sometimes, especially initially, there are a lot of updates. And then part of this is educating our folks as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be real critical that as much information as we can provide
Sure.
out there to the P&O community is gonna be better, because
Yes.
there's going to be, like you said, people aren't accustomed to this, so there's gonna be
Yes.
rumors that they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that, so the more information we're able to disseminate to them,
Mhm.
I think the better off it's gonna be where the professional will accept it.
Right.
And we definitely want to comply, majority of us
Of course.
will.
Of course.
Or hope to.
One thing also is, I know Stephen was talking about developing frequently asked questions, and right now they're really focusing on transition, but at some point after that October 3rd, we're going to start to have the frequently asked questions and answers posted to just help facilitate people learning about the inspection process at TDLR.
Another suggestion might be at our state meetings. We have a state
Yes.
meeting in the spring, and then the one that just occurred in August that you all
Mhm.
attended, is to
Mhm.
do a workshop
Oh, that'd be great.
and offer the information in person to anybody who wants to attend the workshop.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, we'll definitely mark that down. Anything
Any
else?
other questions?
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is going to be number 7, Licensing Division.
Good morning. I'm Dee Dee McEachern, Director of Licensing. We've been very busy this summer, spending a lot of time with the Department of State Health Services, learning how to process their applications and use the licensing system, and hiring those folks to come over with us. So we have 2 people on staff from there, and then we've got 4 more coming October 3rd. So we're very confident that we know how to process what's going on and how to use the system, and we're able to do business for you guys come that time. So we also, this summer, we worked with the Department of State Health Services. We have changed renewal dates to help some of the folks who expire in August, September, and October. Those folks were given a 60-day extension on their license and have been sent new licenses. And so it just helps with some of that compression of all those people trying to renew at the same time during the transition. So people can renew still right now if they expired according to their new expiration date. But it's just a matter of just trying to relieve some tension for folks who are going to be worried about getting those renewals done.
Was that information sent out to people that,
For the ones, yes. So for the people who actually expired, it was sent to them. They've been sent a new license and a new, except for the October ones, that's going out next week.
Okay.
So August and September they've been sent a new license with a letter that says this is what we're doing, and October will go out next week.
okay, I'm in October.
Ah, gotcha. Very good, very good. And so we're also in the process of revising forms to put TDLR's information on them. We don't expect a lot of content changes, and it's just going to be basically rebranding it with our information and basically how we do our forms. So that's basically what we've been working on, is hiring and getting ready to move.
Miguel Mojica, when it comes to online, was that system gonna, we've had trouble with it recently, so.
Okay.
With this transition, is it still gonna, is that gonna be available to us?
The online system
The
is
online
coming
system
with this as well, yes,
Okay, so
yes.
that'll be coming on board in October.
Yes, they
So-
should be ready October 3rd as well. That's
Okay, so we
that's the
should be able
plan,
to
yes.
get on and renew that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's gonna be real critical that we don't run into any problems with this transition when it comes to the license in particular and
Exactly.
everything in general, but there's several facilities that we have to comply and have our license up to date.
Yes.
And there'll be practitioners that are gonna be told, if we don't have that license in hand, you can't see patients.
Right,
So,
right.
we really, that's gonna cause a big problem if we run into that, and we've been running into that a little bit here or there.
Okay.
With certain situations, so if you can do anything to avoid that, if they get something temporary or something, because.
Right, absolutely. No, we
it's-
see that. We
So-
recognize that that's going to be an
can
issue,
shut
and so
down a
that's
facility
utmost
or
concern.
cause some serious problems
Yes.
with some facilities. Fortunately, in our facility, we have like 6 practitioners, so we're able to cover some of the individuals that didn't get their license, or they didn't get the paper in hand, or
Sure.
nothing to show that they paid their dues.
Right.
And they're up to date with their CEUs, so it caused an issue, but we were able to cover. But I know other facilities, if they ran into that problem, they would be in serious, in a serious way in regards
Exactly.
to not being able to see or take care of their patients, so.
Right, yeah. Good, good. We'll make sure that that's, so the other thing, so you guys are used to probably only one person doing your licensing at Department of State Health Services. This team of 6 people who we start with will not only have this team of 6, but they'll have 2 additional people from licensing. Everybody will know how to process every license type. So
Okay.
you won't be limited to just having the access to 1 or 2 staff members. You'll have access to multiple people being able to keep up with that.
Okay, great, that's good.
A question relating to, Catherine Mice, renewal online. There's been discussion in the past about making the application also an online process for licensing, your initial license. Right now, it can't go that way because we have to notarize the documents. And then there was discussion, and it may have been side discussion, I don't know, about possibly doing away with the notary requirement so that those applications could be processed.
Sure. So
Online.
anything that the notary is not required in the law, we're not going to require it on the forms anymore.
So
If
that
it's-
could potentially just disappear?
Yes, yes. We want to enable you guys to be able to get licensed as quickly as possible. So if that requirement's not in the law, it's not going to be on the new form. So, and we're reviewing that. We're scrutinizing the laws and the rules as we look at the forms, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next is number 8, Department of State Health Services.
Yvonne Feinleib with the Department of State Health Services for just a little bit longer. So,
Good morning.
morning. So, we are in the process of planning for the transition. I know that Stephen's talked about the transition team here, and I attended a meeting yesterday, and it was very interesting to hear all the different areas going around and having input and listening to each other. There's tremendous communication here. So if an issue comes up or is problematic, there's a lot of different people at the table to make sure all aspects of it get addressed. At DSHS, we're really concentrating on how to wind down. There's going to be a big effort of packing boxes. There's going to be a period where we shut down the database so the data can be transferred in the middle of September, and there'll be announcements going out on our website soon about that. But basically, we're going to try to have as short a period of downtime as possible but the data does have to be locked and transferred to TDLR and come up in their system. We have a lot of people who are prepared to help with the packing of boxes and the sorting of files and making sure everything happens. So we feel confident that our part of the transition of getting everything over to TDLR is going to go smoothly. We are not concerned about that at this time. And I've started moving things into my cube. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, but I can tell you that we are working very diligently to ensure that this is a smooth transition. People come from TDLR to DSHS to learn. We go back and forth. Even after staff get hired here, we're allowed to go back and help with anything and answer questions and assist. Even after September 1st, I'll be able to go back and help with things. We've been doing trainings on our database. I'm doing one for customer service on the 24th, so they know how to look information up in our system. So I think it's a very positive report, but if you have any questions.
Miguel Mojica, I just want to thank you for dealing with all that you've dealt with the last few months. With this transition, I'm sure you've got some interesting calls and some, had to deal with some serious situations. So thank you for what you do, seriously.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
And as soon as I have a new phone number, I'll give it to you.
Do you really want to?
Yes, I do. Yes. I want to hear, we want to hear proactively if you hear something, if something's going on, so we can make sure it goes correctly.
All right.
Will
Okay?
your email address change as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'll have an agency email address here and everything.
Great.
Okay?
Oh, thank you.
And welcome aboard, Yvonne.
Moving on to item F, well, let's take a 10-minute break, I'm sorry. Let's break and take 10 minutes, and then we'll get back.
Audits.
Go ahead and bring the meeting back into session.
Been open 4 years. 4 years.
The next item on the agenda is going to be F. It's going to be update from the work groups and possible recommendations. There hasn't been a lot of work done at this particular point, except for the enforcement, and we'll proceed to that. So,
Mr. Chair, I guess before we get to the enforcement report, thank you. Hang on, ma'am. Just wanted to kind of remind you who's assigned to which work group and how the meetings will be scheduled and all that stuff like that. So I know the enforcement work group has met and met just yesterday, and we'll be getting a report on that. And the members of that work group are Kevin Matthews, Catherine Mize, and Randy Duncan. These other work groups have not met yet. There hasn't been necessarily anything to meet. I think field operations will probably be getting with you to schedule a meeting. But bottom line, so the licensing work group, the members assigned are Miguel Mojica, Sterling Phillips, and David Aarons. And let me tell you who's assigned to, as far as agency staff, who's assigned to which work group too. So Christina Kaiser, our Director of Enforcement, or one of her staff, will be the ones contacting the members of the work groups to schedule the meetings. The licensing work group, Dee Dee McEachern, will be, or one of her staff will be contacting the members to schedule a meeting. The education and examination work group, which is Miguel Mojica, Randy Duncan, and Kevin Matthews. Ray Pizarro, our Director of Education and Examination, will be contacting, or one of his folks, contacting you all to schedule the meetings. And then the Standard of Care work group, which is Catherine Mize, David Aarons, and Sterling Phillips. That will be Compliance Division, my division, and we'll be contacting you all in the future to schedule some meetings. Bottom line, these are work group meetings, not full board meetings purposely, which means they don't have to take place to be broadcast, and you don't have to be here necessarily. We can schedule those. You can participate by phone or by Skype or whatever. But our staff will be contacting you to schedule the meeting and providing support, providing materials and agenda if necessary to drive those meetings. So that's all I have to add. We can go to the one. Yes, sir.
so the first one, or the only report we have, is going to be on the enforcement work group.
Chairman Mojica, board members, Virginia Fields again. I only have 2 items to discuss as far as the work groups. Catherine Mize came and graciously trained several members of the enforcement division yesterday. It was an in-house training session about the industry as it relates to enforcement. It was several hours, very informative, very educational. I got 4 pages of note myself. A lot of acronyms we're going to be learning over the course of taking over the program. You may like to comment further on the work group experience, but the other issue that we're currently working on will be the penalty matrix. It's our hope that we schedule a time sometime the first 2 weeks of September to kind of give you some comfort and not feel overwhelmed. There's going to be kind of a proposed draft, okay? This isn't trying to be presumptuous, it's trying to facilitate the work that you do and make it a little bit easier, less time consuming. So what we've done is we've kind of pulled out the violations and the statute or the rule citation, and we're going to kind of classify them. At that point, you get kind of a penalty matrix, and you get to go. This one's going to be on this class, this is going to be on this class, and then a primary responsibility will be to determine the administrative penalty amounts or the license sanction amount for a first offense or a second offense, subsequent offenses. So hopefully it won't be as time consuming as you may be concerned about in your head, trying to think of a violation and an amount and a class for every statutory violation or allegation. So we hope to have that prepared and that sent to the work group before the work group actually initiates the first meeting for development. This will give you some time as far as the work group to review this information and kind of maybe get your own ideas about how you'd like the penalty matrix to look, and then bring that to the group. But again, there's no time set. It's to be determined, but the goal is one of the first 2 weeks in September for the work group. And that's all I have as far as an update, although Ms. Mice might like to add additional comment about the training yesterday, and I'm welcome for any questions as well.
The only thing I have to say is that it was about half a room full of people. It was inspectors, it was legal assistants,
Investigators,
investigators,
some of the intake file opening.
and then some attorneys that were sitting on the back row. But it was me just giving them a lot of information, sort of a day in the life of a O&P shop, and how we treat patients, how we go through the process of seeing a patient for making an orthotic, off-the-shelf custom fitted versus truly custom prosthetics, where they could potentially run into, or we potentially run into problems.
Overcharging.
Oh, yeah. Typical things that might make a patient angry and might cause them to create a complaint. Some of the nature of complaints that we've seen with our board over the last, I've been involved with the board just in observation for about, 6 or 7 years. So some of the complaints that we've seen. And they asked a lot of great questions, and we may need to put an acronym dictionary together for them.
For all of enforcement.
So I think it was really productive, and I was very encouraged by the questions that were being asked and how much involvement I think that they are going to reach out to us to guide them. So it was good.
Great.
And if no more questions, thank you very much again.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item G, recommendations for agenda items for next board meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, I can tell you right now, we will have staff reports on the agenda, and we will have these work groups listed in case there's anything to report, which I think there will be, possibly for 3 for sure, maybe all 4.
Okay.
So any other items y'all want to add right now, you can let us know, or sometime between now and the next
When's the
meeting.
deadline to add items?
What's the, 10 days? Yeah, at least 10 days before
10 days
the
before.
actual meeting,
Okay.
because we have to follow the agenda, so.
Okay.
Kevin Matthews, and I'd just like to ask if we can, in the enforcement work groups, if we can get more than 2 or 3 days' notice. We have patient schedules that are booked, and it's easy to block out time, but give me a couple weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Definitely.
I have a general question, Catherine Mize. When we get questions from the professionals on, can I do this, or is this within our law or outside of our law, I'm starting to get questions like that from people that know me, maybe email, maybe a phone call. How do I handle that? And I mean, some of the questions are incredibly obvious, and I can point right to it, and I don't mind saying, read this. But when there's some interpretation, or when maybe it's looking a little gray, I'm a little bit leery of giving a hard answer. So how do I handle those questions, or could they be handled by the board?
I think your leeriness is probably a good approach when you get questions like that. Refer them to us. They can call our 800 number, and that if it's not something that they can answer, the customer service folks, then they will forward it to someone in the compliance division, very likely Yvonne, or someone else working in the compliance division. If it's really something that's kind of fuzzy or ambiguous, then we may have to discuss it in-house before providing you an answer. But bottom line is, the basic answer is refer them to us, and we'll get them the answers.
And so they should go to that 1-800 number and
Yeah.
pose their question to whoever answers the phone?
Yeah, and again, our customer service folks are trained to understand when, you know what, I need to hand this one off to somebody. If it's, let's say it's an enforcement question or something like that, they would pass it to someone enforcement. If it's something more, it's an interpretation of the standards of practice or whatever, that might come to the compliance division.
Mary Winston, also Ms. Mize, if the board gets a question, we have a dedicated address of advisory boards at TDLR, comes to 3 people. we'll see that question and we will acknowledge it and forward it to whomever, so they don't have to be thrown into the pool. Because our customer service handles emails, phone calls, so many different things. If we can kind of take that issue that just came from you and bird dog it and get a response back to you, it's just simpler.
Okay, what's that email address?
Advisory boards at TDLR. Actually, I'll email you. It's advisory, and make sure there's no dot. I messed this up yesterday.
Okay. Advisory boards at TDLR.
Yes. .texas.gov.
Texas is spelled out.
It is advisory.boards.
Advisory.boards.
Yes.
Oh, right there. Yeah, cool, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
And if it's something that needs to be shared with, let's say it's a question that, oh, this applies to everybody, then we'll probably pass that information forward in the form of an email or a frequently asked question or something like that, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So any recommendations for agenda items for the next board from any board members for now? So if there is, don't hesitate to forward it to us 10 days in advance of the meeting. Discussion of date, time, and location of next board meetings. We're moving to item H.
So we're looking at sometime in January. Between the dates of January 17th and January 29th is what we would like to try and schedule your next meeting. The reason we're saying all the way out to January is because we want to give the work groups time to meet and discuss their items too, so they can have something to report back to the whole group then. So any day between January 17th and January 29th, I don't know if y'all have a preference. Is Friday your preference, or that's just the way it turned out? And if you prefer to meet in the morning or afternoon, you can decide those things. And the reason we're skipping over December is because everyone's gonna have, parties to go to and family to deal with and.
Some fun stuff to do.
Yes.
You'll be sitting at home on your computer buying Christmas presents and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, everybody okay with the 20th? You wanna do
That's inauguration day, that could be exciting.
so do you wanna do the 27th?
Either way.
But 20th is fine with,
Okay.
20 or 27, either one.
Everybody good for the 20th?
Yeah.
Do
Country
the
baby.
20th,
I
Friday.
don't have anything
Country
planned
baby
out that far in advance.
I'm not the same way, am I? So let's go for January the 20th.
Okay, and 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock is good, yeah.
Okay.
It works great
For
for
the
me.
people that, yeah, well, those are you fine with.
Good.
And then,
Or not.
finally, item I, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.